Here after Colorado's third spring practice, Brian, you were off covering the women's basketball team. Obviously exciting. They reached the Sweet 16. You're back for a couple days here, and things have changed. A couple hours. Things have changed a little bit around here. Probably 4 times as much media covering today's practice, maybe 5 times as much media. Just so many more people around this program now with Coach Prime at the helm.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and I missed the first two, but when I walked out in the hallway for the post game or for the post practice, like whoa, am I at Dove Valley right now? I mean it's crazy. A lot has changed. There's obviously a lot of media here. Day three that never would have been here day three before. So certainly everything that we've talked about for the last couple of months, the vibe and everything is totally different, and it's continuing as we're into day three of spring ball.
And Coach Prime led us into practice today. I think we're still getting kind of a feel for what we're allowed to report on. And the last thing we want to do is get banished from this building. I think some general guys that stood out, that's okay. But obviously injuries, we can't talk about that. But it was nice to just get in here. Now, they're not wearing numbers, as CU fans know. So it's a little bit harder to pick guys out. But when Jimmy Horn and Travis Hunter go on a route, those guys just stand out from a fluidity standpoint. And both those guys made plays today, especially Travis Hunter with a nice touchdown catch.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when it's those guys, and really the thing is when they get up, it's like, does it say Horn Jr. or does it say Hunter on the back? And Jimmy Horn almost had a phenomenal catch along the sideline that he almost corralled with the one arm, but it popped out on the ground. But both those guys, they clearly stand out. Shedeur Sanders, the way he places the ball, really stands out. I mean, he not only connection with those guys, but I mean just where he's putting the ball where he wants, and I thought that was impressive. And it's hard to glean too much from practice number 3, and and again without knowing numbers, it's hard to see who is what. But I will say. We did talk to Shane Cokes after practice, and I know that who we talked to was going to be based on who Coach Sanders thought stood out, and so clearly, Shane Cokes is the guy that he feels like is standing out. So, it's a lot of newcomers that are standing out right now, but it's early. We'll see, but those newcomers are making their mark early on.
And Shane Cokes was making a name for himself in the weight room already this winter, and he is such a valuable piece for you on a defensive line, because as he talked about, he's playing all the different techniques. He really is kind of a Swiss Army knife when you talk about him transferring in from Dartmouth. Now, that's a transition, but from a strength standpoint, he's hung with these guys from day one. Yeah. And like you said, he wouldn't have been picked to talk to us if he wasn't standing out. He's definitely going to be a guy that's going to have a big role on this defensive line.
Yeah, and he mentioned that he was playing 5 technique the previous practice and some three technique. He was playing some nose today. And he also mentioned, hey, it was the Ivy League. There's better players there than people think. Now, it is a step up here, but he's holding his own at this point, and they need him and defensive linemen to step up. I mean, obviously the run game last year was atrocious, the run defense, and they've got to have guys like Shane Cokes stand up. So it's nice to see him being a guy that stands out early in practice.
We talked for about an hour on a pre-spring ball podcast, and we were curious which returning guys are going to make a mark, because there's going to be some that maybe you didn't expect them to have a big role, that are. Maybe not a huge surprise, but Jared Christian-Lichtenhan running with the first team at left tackle early on, that's a guy from the former staff to keep an eye on going forward, that it looks like based on the fact that he is first team left tackle right now is going to have a role on this team. And in the past, I mean, they nicknamed him Tank. Yeah. He stood out physically. He's still a big guy, obviously, but doesn't stand out quite as much when you look at a Savion Washington, who is a mountain of a human being, and Jack Wilty and Tyler Brown are in there with the first team guards. Those guys are stout. And then Van Wells as well, another returning guy that everybody was excited about coming off last year, has been running first team center.
Yeah, and there was another guy walked by me. I was like, wow, who's this new tackle? And it was Travis Gray, so not a new guy, and so there's a lot of imposing guys on that offensive line. It's great to see Tank in there. Now, he obviously didn't start last year as a starter, but really developed into that, within the first month of the season. And I think he's the guy that's just continuing to get better, and I think he could definitely compete for a starting job here. Van Wells also, Jake Wiley, those are guys that, I know they brought in a bunch of experienced offensive linemen, but when you have 3 returning starters, you've got to put them in the mix for starting roles, and Tank is certainly right there. Another guy, returning guy, Deion Smith appears to be running with the ones at running back, and they clearly like him there. I think that's one of those guys too that could have a role with this team.
We had a chance to talk to Sean Lewis after practice today as well. Just like his offense goes fast, he's a fast talker. He gets out his words pretty quickly. You could sense that there's an urgency with him, because when you're implementing this system, like he said, you can't wait till preseason camp to really get ramped up and going. So that's the main takeaway I had. And then also I asked him, Kent State, what did it do for the defense having to go up against that up-tempo offense every day? And he said it was great for them, because when they went up against a team that huddled, they were almost bored out there. So I think that's one part of this offense that maybe doesn't get talked about, is what this could do for the defensive unit.
I agree with you. I thought that was a great question, because I think that's that underlying thing, like, wow, this could actually have an impact on both sides of the ball. It's going to go with, Coach Prime mentioned that first day, it was up-tempo practice, right? And that's going to help on both sides of the ball to do that. And we got to see it today. It was fast-paced.
Yeah.
I mean, they went, it was one what's the phrase I'm going for? One period after the other. It was like boom, boom, boom. I mean, nobody was walking around. It was as fast as he made it sound on Sunday.
They did get a lot of team reps in for one practice today, for sure. Well, you're off to Seattle, and you're off to a press conference right now, so we'll cut this a little bit short, but we're going to get you back here full-time eventually, and we'll start doing these analysis videos every day. So hang in there on the women's beat, and we'll see. Maybe they got another NCAA tournament win in them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big upset if they can get Iowa, but if they do, they got a good shot to get to the Final Four. Their bracket is the upset bracket, and so it's crazy to think of this team getting to the Final Four. It's crazy they're in the Sweet 16, but Iowa's got the best player in the country, in Caitlin Clark. So we'll see.
I've always felt bad, because recruiting is a job in and of itself that I haven't had time to cover the women's team, but I've always had a ton of respect for J.R. Payne, and she is just a great coach and a great person, and it's great to see her have this success.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and really the whole staff over there is a lot of good people, and so it's fun to see them doing well. I mean, I didn't think they were going to beat Duke, but they beat them in their home floor, in their home gym. Cameron Indoor, by the way, for those that haven't been there, pretty sweet place to watch a basketball game. So highly recommend it. It took me, I won't say how many years, but it took me a while to get there. But it was a pretty sweet place to watch a game.
All right, well, that's 3 practices of the Coach Prime era in the books. We'll be back with more analysis as we get further into spring practices.